Okay, so we've got the incredible Bubachik versus Big C08 from Princeton. This is the board 3 from Mizzou, a grandmaster against the board 2. No, this is the board 4. So I think they're actually playing the wrong person if this is round 1. But we do have Andrew Tang here playing against Raja. So yeah, I'm not sure about that first board, but we're gonna try to focus on Andrew Tang here at a modest 2885. I've definitely seen him higher rated, but this is definitely one of the strongest players in the collegiate chess scene. So we're gonna stick with him today. He's got a lot of strong opponents to play. And we also have Operin Grigory 2991. So this is a star-studded field today, up against the national master Aaron Master from Princeton. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Let's see. Let me make sure that Aaron Master versus Grigory Operin. Did they change seating? I don't know. Not sure what order they're playing in, but yeah, we'll focus on the Penguin for now. So Andrew and his opponent have both castled kingside. This is probably still theory. Looks like out of a Roy Lopez. Getting this bishop back. Bishop tucks in, opening the view for the rook. Both sides playing in the center, as you would expect. Yeah, Raja from Mizzou is the board 4, an international master. So you know they have a good team. If your fourth board is an international master, Raja definitely could be a top board in most schools, but not this one. So bishop comes back, and Tang going for the dark square fianchetto, going to help negate this bishop's attack on h7 after the center opens. This pawn will not always be here. So a3. Not entirely sure what this is for, or if it's preparing anything. But yeah, white will do best to maintain this tension. You do not want to push forward and attack the knight. Or maybe you do. I don't know. But Tang just continuing. Bishop to g7. Knight coming back. Perhaps going to go here. Perhaps opening the way for this bishop to come out with the pin. And then going to double the bishop and queen up, trying to trade off this dark squared bishop. That seems pretty reasonable. It's also possible to reroute this way eventually, maybe after this knight is off. White could also try to move this knight and try to get the f-pawn rolling. So we'll see what Tang comes up with here. About 4 minutes on his clock. The right moment, this knight could move, opening the diagonal for the bishop. And yeah, we see that knight going here, keeping an eye on some of these light squares, but also perhaps preparing e takes d4, which will open up all 3 pieces attacking e4. Only defended twice after this last knight move. So the knight will hop in lending more support over e4. Redeploying. Making sure Tang doesn't get away with a pawn here. Andrew opens up anyways. E takes d4, and now followed up with c5, striking at this pawn duo in the center. And yeah, this double fianchetto idea, the knights will open up the diagonals for the bishops. So we can take here, but you would leave yourself with this backwards d pawn. So Andrew not really threatening to take here, I don't believe. So white can maintain this and hold it for the time being. But perhaps Andrew wants to push onward and create a 3-on-2 majority on the queen side. Not entirely sure if that's the plan. My guess is probably not, because that leaves this pawn backwards still. So white closing down this bishop, and yeah, Andrew just pushing forward. If this bishop goes away, we could see the knight landing on b3. And so the rook prepares in case of knight attack, and actually trying to push this pawn forward, but this clamps down on that. So if here we could see en passant. And finally, this bishop gets in the game with tempo on the queen. So I assume the queen will move. We could see a trade of bishops like this, but I think the queen will do best somewhere over here. It's also important to note this knight has no backward moves after this pawn advancement in the center. This pawn is hit twice. So actually, no, it's not. The knight is not here. Okay. If it was a super knight, it could. It can only go here. Only so far. All right. h4. Perhaps h5 to follow. And if you get h5, well, h6 is going to be there. And this bishop's going to have to tuck away in the corner. So not looking too happy if you allow this. Will black stop that with h5? That's pretty committal, because these light squares can be a target. Andrew prepared to put a knight on b3, just controlling this light square. And we do see h5. Now, because of this rook move, knight to b3 does not come with tempo. So white would then have time to play h6. So you don't want to take, inviting the white knight into the position. You also don't want to allow h6, but h6 is livable. You can work around that pawn. It's just uncomfortable. So if you want to stop h6, you have to play h6 yourself. But yeah, that doesn't seem very good. So knight does hop in to b3. And yeah, white can just play h6 now. They could also just take on g6, but I think the pawn on h6 would be much more of a nuisance to the penguin in this position. Looks like the other boards, the grandmasters from Mizzou, have quite the position on the clock. I mean, 3 minutes to 13 seconds and a minute and a half to half a minute. The grandmasters are playing much faster than their national master counterparts here. And yeah, Aaron Master seems to be down a queen. And the pieces are not as coordinated as they should be against a queen. So, anyways, back to Andrew's game. So Andrew, with the time advantage, attacking the bishop. Rook moves over. We can go knight here to hit the rook. Okay, Oprah Grigori got his first point against Aaron Master. So maybe Andrew and Chris Yang have swapped places. And maybe I don't see Antipov versus Daniel Moreno. So Okay, I have it. So yeah, let me swap the boards a little bit around. I'm guessing this is actually what it is. Well, Daniel Moreno is playing Antipov. Okay. That or I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, Andrew now under a minute. These pieces are swarming his king side. So Bubachik and Grigory both got a point. The top two boards from Mizzou. I'm pretty sure Antipov should be board 2. Yeah, Antipov should be board 2. Daniel Moreno should also be board 2. So I don't know why they're playing each other. Anyways, Andrew Tang, 30 seconds. Every piece controlling f6. The knight could hop in. Andrew is up material. He has rook check, king here, and now taking here. Knight coming in. Rook e5 with a skewer. That's a good move. Attacking the knight. Knight comes with check. You can give up the rook for 2 pieces. This should be winning for Tang. Bishop takes, queen takes. Now you're just up 2 whole bishops. There is a queen check, but the bishop is covering the dark square. That's a exchange, but no, going for the pin, forcing the pawn to block, and leaving this bishop on. This is bait. You don't want to take that and allow the queen to come in on the dark squares. So rook over to the e-file. Queen takes that pawn on h6, and Andrew wins by resignation. Antipov beating Daniel here. So Mizzou to a strong start. 3-1. That one being Andrew Tang. He's going to prove to be a tough customer for these Mizzou players. Okay, so I'm not entirely sure what board order they chose, but I've moved it such that it works according to their first round. Here we got Andrew Tang versus the incredible Bubachik. Chris Repka from Mizzou. So I mean, Chris then should be board 3. So I don't know why. Who was Chris playing the last one? A 1 for Antipov? Yeah, you're right. I put a 3 because I said they got 3 points. So I mixed up. But good catch. Thank you. All right, so Andrew with the white pieces now. Yeah, I should move Antipov back to the 2nd place. So yeah, I don't know. They kind of messed up the colors maybe then if they did the wrong round order. It's really weird. But as long as they all play each other, that's what's most important. Okay, so knight under some pressure, probably going to take this, I assume. Looks to be like the move. Andrew thinking things over here. Knight takes d4. Attacking the bishop. So this is interesting. Black does not take this back right away. instead asking the bishop a question. So, do you take this? Queen takes, hitting that. Or do you go back, maintaining this and allowing black to take? Also, this pawn is pinned to the knight, so I don't think this pawn's going to do anything anytime soon. But you never know. We'll see how tricky Andrew Tang can get. So what do you do with the bishop? Do you maintain the pin, or do you take? I'm assuming e3 at some point in castle kingside, but castling long is available if you want to defend this knight right away and get out of the pin. This knight would like to control the center once again. But Andrew Tang in a time think here. Chris Repka from Mizzou still with 4:47 on the clock. Andrew Tang going under 3 minutes now. So investing some time. I'm not sure what he's thinking about. If he goes back, perhaps black will even play g5. Going back, and then this knight can come in against the pin. So Andrew does take the knight, queen takes, and then a solid e3 move, defending this knight that was hanging. And now black can take back the pawn if they so choose. I assume that's what they'll do, and that is. The knight would like to take, but is pinned. So bishop develops, looking to go kingside, getting out of the pin. We might see knight takes, queen takes after that, but only after. So knight coming in, more pressure on this knight. Rook comes in to defend. You don't want to lose a pawn, and you don't want to have an isolated pawn, I don't think. Black does have the isolated pawn, and Andrew will eventually route this bishop to point right at it. Same with this rook. So this pawn, long-term weakness, black can defend and develop with this bishop move. If the knight ever takes, then you would be helping black out by controlling their center, supporting their central pawn point, no longer an isolated pawn, but also opening up this f-file for the queen and rook to play on. So I'm expecting this, I'm expecting that, and this perhaps, but maybe even rook to c8 for black on the open c file. But yeah, this will be the focal point for the rest of this game. We'll see these pieces try to come to life on d5. So queen asking a question about this g pawn, and after castles there will be bishop h3, but bishop f3 defends and attacks. There will be knight here, maybe, actually. Knight to e5 looks pretty good in my mind. Not sure what you will do after that point. Let's see. What do you do after bishop e or knight e5? So knight e5. Ah, you just take this pawn. No? I have no idea. Knight e5. Would you move the king? No, okay. Rook does go to the c8 file. Excuse me. Okay, I think I'm good. That is an x-ray on the queen. So this knight will potentially be pinned. So after this knight moves. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm allergic to such good chess, it seems. These chess players are much better than me. I don't see Daniel Moreno. Is Princeton missing a player? Oh, no, he was playing. Wait. Yo, no, Daniel Moreno is playing right now, so that's good. Yeah, I don't know what was wrong with 95. Am I missing something simple? So the king steps aside, threatening to take the bishop. So bishop tucks back, supporting d5 again. If you take here with the knight, I assume rook takes, but would you consider taking with the pawn to help out here? I feel like I would consider it. But I guess rook takes is just better. You want to keep the rook on the open c file. So Daniel now playing Grigory Operin. Why? Who did Daniel play the first time? Antipov? So then Aaron Master is now playing board 2. Is he the 4th board? Who's Big C playing against? Raja? Oh, dude, I really have no idea what order they're going off of. I wish I knew. So they don't complain about what color they played with later. But okay, queen to b3. Definitely anticipated this. Putting more pressure on the center. Pressure on the bishop. The threat is to take the knight. That's the defender. So now the bishop resolves the tension. Takes on c3. Do you take with the knight or with the pawn? Probably the pawn would be my guess. Not necessarily lining up the queen with the rook. That would allow knight here to take here. Don't think you want to lose this bishop, although after knight takes, you do have knight takes back. Yeah, so pawn takes on c3. If this knight were to take, now you would take with the c pawn, I think. Not entirely sure. Maybe you take with the rook, and then you're going to double on the d file. So now both sides with isolated pawns, but this knight is a great blockader of this pawn. And this knight now with tempo on the queen, looking at c4, a blockader of this pawn. Andrew, with 20 seconds on the clock, steps the queen up. The knight does not move because then b7 would hang. So first b6, defending the knight, saving the pawn. And now we have knight to b5, rook now to the c4 square, kicking the queen all the way back. And this knight can come here with tempo on the rook. The rook might swing its way over. 15 seconds for Tang. He is a speedy guy, so he can play in time pressure for sure. But now he's under 10 seconds. This is still going to be tough. With 5 seconds, he moves the queen in. This allows the knight here. He's going to trade off this bishop, I assume. And then bishop here looks like a skewer. So would you take with the pawn, opening the g file, getting the rook, attacking the king and queen? That's probably what Tang will have to do. I don't think he will allow this skewer with barely any compensation. So does black take? Yes, they do. G takes. No, going with the queen takes. Allowing bishop to g4. Queen takes pawn. Okay, well, if you take here, you take here. So Tang actually getting a pawn out of this. Wow. Okay, so yeah, I kind of missed that, but I mean, I thought about it. I just didn't think it would work. But yeah. Yeah, this rook will hang in the end. So black now down a pawn, and now black is in time pressure. 15 seconds. There is rook c5. So then after queen takes, rook takes, Your knight and your rook are both in pressure. Ah, so pawn takes now f3. Black can take the pawn back. No, goes here, attacking here. So the knight is saved. The pawn is gone. But now a7 will fall. Andrew doesn't take right away. Rook takes as possible. This is a pin. Here we have g4. Rook on the 7th. Attacking a7. Pawn takes. Bishop pressure here. Rook takes. There goes this pawn. Bishop is attacked. Knight is attacked. Knight moves. Now this pawn can fall. Rook takes. Pawn takes. Rook takes. Instead, bishop here. King in check. King steps up to defend. So I think black missed out on a pawn here. Knight move, attacking the pawn. The pawn was defended, but the pawn is moved regardless. 7 seconds for Tang. 5, 4, 3. He moves, attacking the rook. Rook attacks the knight. Rook defends the knight. Bishop attacks the pawn. King steps over, going for the center. Rook check. King has to defend the pawn. Rook opposite the knight for a pin. Rook here to unpin. That is a threat right here. You can't stop it. Rook takes with check, grabbing a pawn. So Chris now even material. Oh, but there goes this one. Knight takes with a fork, so king steps out of the way. Rook defends the pawn. So even material. This is threatening to win a pawn. King check, king attacking the rook. There goes this pawn, but there goes that pawn. This first with check. This is looking to be a drawn position, but look at the activity of this rook. White up a pawn for now, but black can simply take it back and trade down here. But no, king's going for more. There's going to be a deadly check, so the king making some space for himself. And luckily, this knight defends the mate threat. So, is that a threat? Not really. Rook here, maybe. Also not really. Pushing the pawn. Check. Oh, another spot for the king. You don't want to go into discoveries. So, it looks like black has at least a repetition if they want it. And they might just do that with 6 seconds left on the clock. Okay, knight here. Andrew wants more. Rook here. King here. Bishop takes pawn. Pawn push. Does that win the, okay, check? Oh my god. No. Doesn't work because the rook can come back. There's another check. King here. There's this and that maybe. No king here. This king is blocking the bishop. So king over, off the h-file. King in, bishop block. This pawn keeping the knight out. Knight check, knight check. Oh my goodness. 7 seconds. You could take this and take that, and that's a draw. So these players getting a draw. What a game. That was very intense, down to the wire with barely any time left. So let's check out Antipov's game. Mizzou's second 2900 GM. So Grigory got a point. Raja got a point. And Penguin with half a point. And Bubachik with half a point. So, oh, Andrew Tang should be at 1.5. My bad. Whoops. All right, so this is the last game in the first half, the second round. Looks like we have a very active queen for both sides. There's queen check here. No, king here. King here. Oh, king here. Okay. Queen takes now. You go no here. That's looking kind of dangerous. That's checkmate. Yeah, I thought you had to go back. All right. Well, that's a point for Antipov. So the top two boards from Mizzou, flawless so far. Princeton struggling to get any points on their lower boards. Understandably so. We got Daniel Moreno now against Raja. Wait, Bubachik should be at 1.5. So, yeah, after the first half of the match, Mizzou is leading 6.5 to 1.5. Andrew Tang, the only Princeton player with any points to show. And yeah, Mizzou only needs 2 more wins out of the next 8 games to get the win. So they're in a good spot. They're feeling comfortable. Daniel Moreno now against Mizzou's bottom board. Trying to get his first points of the match. We have a queen trade offered here. Takes, opens the A file for the rook, but double isolates these pawns. So Moreno having to ask himself, do I want to trade down here? Or do I want to leave the queens on the board? So white simply castles. If black takes, you will help white's development. Bishop takes e3. So black develops their bishop, connecting their rooks. If this bishop develops, then this pawn could fall. Not sure if they would go for that. That might be a queen trap. But instead, just simply trading off queens. So the bishop can now come to a better placed square than d2, I assume. Bishop here comes with a punch. Okay. Rook to b1, preparing b4, it seems. Knight d7, opening up this bishop. Threatening to take here, ruining white's structure. I don't know if black wants to give up the fianchettoed bishop. That would allow this bishop to come in. But black has a grip on the dark squares for sure. With like every piece. So rook e1 saying if you want to take, go ahead. Because I'm going to get this bishop here. And so black deciding, is it worth it? Do I take on c3? And they do. So bishop takes, pawn takes, and now this a2 pawn is gone as well. So perhaps anticipating this, making sure the bishop is defended, and now bring the knight into the center, attacking the bishop. You don't want to take the knight, definitely undoing black's weakness. And likewise, black does not want to take this knight, which will help out their center as well. So bishop h6, as anticipated, hitting the rook. Rook's going to move. And doubled up on the a file. This pawn is hanging. But okay, taking here, you don't have to take with the pawn now because this knight can retake, depending on what black wants to do. This does have some benefits. You can free up the king a little bit, maybe. And you leave this knight on a more centralized square, perhaps. This is a weak point. So yeah, it takes with pawn. And now e4 is hit. b6 also hanging, but this pawn might be a little bit more important than this pawn. So bishop now deploys, looking at this weakness that has been made. So if the knight takes, well, actually that's defended now after the bishop moved. So knight can't go too far away. It is the sole defender of e6. So we got the bishop pair versus the two knights from Raja. But Raja is up a pawn. And yeah, both sides with double isolated pawns. Knight e5, centralized square attacking this bishop. Now rook takes. So knight takes, pawn takes. Taking the bishop pair off the board. Black can also trade off rooks if they wish. Rook a1 is possible. All right, we have Andrew Tang versus Antipov. We'll focus on this one. We'll go back to Daniel's game in a second. Okay, so white expanding on the queen side. a4. Maybe going for a5. I feel like bishop could come to g5 with the pen. So this game looks like it came from a Joko piano. c3. Taking the d4 square. Going for the bishop trade. Bishop takes. Now we have this semi-open f-file for our rook. Bishop trying to contest this bishop. This is a very strong bishop. So if bishop takes, probably rook takes, I guess, after you've moved the rook to the e-file. How does black try to work with these doubled pawns? Do you play d5? I don't think white would ever take. But actually they might, because the rook on the e-file could win the pawn back. So, yeah. I like this. Bishop e3. The bishop tucked away on a7 is a long-term nuisance to the king. So black spent some extra time playing a6 to tuck the bishop away. And now in one move, white trades that bishop off. So queen over to the e-file. Perhaps preparing d5. Also preparing knight into f4. That's going to be a monster knight on f4. And if the queen was not on e8 and you play knight h5, then there's a potential shot at e5, opening the queen's view of the knight. So this defense is necessary. And yeah, white just continuing on the queen side. Andrew's going to get this beautiful knight on f4. Just hitting all these pawns. Very hard to kick this knight out because this pawn will fall with check. So queen stepping up, king over, making sure that when the knight hits f4, it's not a dual threat of mate, and knight takes h3 with check, taking advantage of the pin. So king steps aside, off the g-file, clearing the way for some pieces to defend if necessary. We have a rook lift. Andrew's going to double up on the f-file. White has the knight on f3 defended by the knight, the rook, and the queen. So hard to see an exchange sacrifice occur. And Andrew leaving knight f4 in his back pocket when he wants it. It will come with a checkmate threat. White can respond with knight h4, attacking the queen and the pawn, defending. So have to figure out what you want to do. G3 has been played, and now a weakness has been made in white's camp. So does Ting follow up with the doubling of the rooks? Yes, he does. So more pressure now. This knight is pinned to this pawn. Antipov with just under 4 minutes, though. So Penguin bringing in his last piece, evading this pawn attack. We're going to see a knight land on g5 soon, I imagine. So Andrew really putting everything he has into this kingside attack, leaving the queen side open for white's pawns and rook to play. So can white keep playing on the queen side, or will that give Andrew enough time to really put the heat on? Imagine knight g5 right now. Knight takes, rook takes. Has to be devastating. So maybe h4 will be played, and then that will allow the queen to come in. So Antipov putting in some time here, making sure everything will work out for him. So striking in the center, d4, threatening to win a pawn on e5, knight f7, defending conveniently, also still preparing this knight g5 idea. Queen now to the e file, doubling up, bringing the queen in a little closer for some defense, but also maybe clearing the way for the rook to join the king side as well. So Andrew now less than 45 seconds on the clock, trying to find if there's a knockout blow. There's also this queen h6 idea. Yeah, queen h6, opposite the king. Now rook over to the f-file. So every piece now on the king side except for this knight, but the knight is defending the king side as well. So you can see white paying some respect to Tang's attack, and only after the rook leaves the a-file does Tang open up. Takes. White simply taking back. Now Andrew with 15 seconds, 12 seconds, 10 seconds, less than 10 seconds. He's going to have to come up with something. Okay, b6 with 6 seconds to 220. Antipov in a really good spot, but you can never count Andrew Tang off. Takes, takes, pawn takes, so double isolated pawns for black. Will we see this knight hopping in now to f3, replacing the knight that was there? Yes. So rook now to the g file, hanging this pawn with tempo. Not sure what the follow-up is. What happens if you take this? I'm totally taking that. But I am not a grandmaster, so knight takes, you have to move the rook somewhere. And that also opens up the rook's defense, so I don't think there's going to be a tactical shot. This rook is defended as well, so knight goes back. This is pretty passive. I think knight f6, you want to put a piece on g4, taking advantage of this pin. So knight goes back, somewhat passive. I don't think you'll see f3. Rook f3, so getting out of the fork. And now we just have the queen and rook doubled up here now. Knight hopping in. We have h5. Queen offering a trade. Queen takes. How to take back, with the rook or the pawn? You go with the pawn, we'll have double isolated pawns all on the e file. So even material, they do take with the pawn. The knight finally takes on e5. Knight hopping in with tempo. Rook check, rook block, trade, taking back a pawn with an attack on the rook and the pawn. So the rook can move to these two spots to defend this. You could also go here, maybe not. Oh, well, okay. Doing that, taking this pawn instead. Knight here, going after this pawn. Rook back to defend. The knight can pivot on f7. No, goes back to c6. King now to the h file. So again, we've entered a time scramble. Antipov had 2:20 to Andrew Tang's 6 seconds. So now Antipov is at 15 seconds to Andrew's 7 seconds. So rook now on the 7th. Rook up, knight in, knight getting forked here. So Andrew mopping up all the pawns. Knight's going to come here. Maybe not. King attacking the rook. Rook steps back. Knight steps back. Controlling these light squares. I think Andrew should be able to win this. I think Andrew's got this in the bag. Knight attacking the rook. Rook going for this rook trade. King steps aside. Going for the knight trade now. Rook trade. Ooh, okay, that's a check. Okay, my bad. Okay, so attacking here. Actually, how do you defend that? Attacking the knight. Rook takes with check first. Now defending the knight. Rook check. King back. King attacking this pawn. Are you going to get the pawn? I think you're going to get the pawn. I think. Knight takes. King attacking the rook. Rook over. Oh. Oh. Oh, no. Oh, no. Andrew Tang, blundering mate. Okay. That is brutal. Oh, goodness. Knight f8. What a shot. Down all the pawns in the world, but it doesn't matter. After takes, king here, you needed to play knight f5 or e4. Those are your only two moves as black. King here, boom, knight f8. This can't stop mate on h7. That is crazy. This net here. Oh, Andrew Tang's gonna be upset about that one. I have no idea who all won on those last matches, but I assume Mizzou swept. I was too focused on Andrew's game. So, yeah. I definitely know Antipov won. So we'll give him his point. Yeah, if anyone else knows, feel free to tell me. I could look up their scores. So let's see. Yep, so Grigory also at 3 for 3. Let's look up Bubachik's score. So yeah, Bubachik at 2.5 now. And let's look up Raja. So Raja now at 2 points. So yeah, I think that was a sweep. And that definitely clinches the win for Mizzou. Not to many people's surprise. Andrew now, after losing his first game to Antipov. I mean, he was definitely winning. But one slip is all it takes. Andrew goes down to the checkmate from Antipov, and now playing Mizzou's top board, Operin Grigori. It would be cool to see Andrew streaming this, but he hasn't yet. Who knows? Maybe one day. Maybe one day he will. Fingers crossed. But yeah, Andrew, is he sponsored by Cloud9? Is that the right way to say it? I have no idea. But that is really cool to see one of the players in an organization. So maybe some of these other top players from Mizzou will follow suit. I don't know if that's the way that the competitive chess players will go in college, but definitely the route for some. I do know some of the Mizzou players have streamed before. Not sure if I've seen them stream in a while. I see Count Live is in the chat, also a streamer, but again, haven't seen him streaming in a while, so who knows? Maybe Count Live could be the next sponsored chess player. I think Botez was the most recent one to be sponsored. I think Chi-Yu Zhou, aka Nimsco on Twitch, also known as Nemo. She was, I think, the first, and she is also a collegiate player for University of Toronto. But unfortunately, not many people from Toronto wanted to play this season. They did manage to get a team, but yeah, Chi-Yu, very busy, declined to play this year. So F3 played by Tang, attacking E4, and the knight develops with an attack on D4. Bishop develops to defend. So right now, the threat is to take on E4. So bishop develops to defend that. Will white castle? And if so, which way? Probably kingside is my guess. Yeah, Andrew Tang is from Cloud9, so that is pretty cool. I'm wondering if one of these orgs, like Cloud9 has Andrew Tang. It'd be cool if somebody tries to help sponsor the Collegiate Chess League. I think that is something possible in the near future. But anyways, F takes E4, bishop takes. So you could take with the knight, which conveniently defends your knight that is hanging by the pawn. You could also, take with the bishop, but you don't want to because this bishop is fianchettoed. So you want to leave this here. Now the knight is in a pin. The knight was hitting the queen. Queen steps over, attacking the knight. So this is actually kind of a little awkward, not going to lie. I think F5 was needed there. F5 was needed. So now, what can we do? Now, the knight is still pinned. We can try to attack the knight even more. Could try to double up on the F file. We could also go to the semi-open C file, which is a pretty natural move. And that actually comes with a threat of rook here, attacking the queen, attacking the F pawn, trying to remove the queen from the defense of E4. And if knight takes, well, you have bishop takes with check. So there's no time to take the queen back. Instead, Andrew just goes for G4. Kind of a plain and simple idea, trying to distract the pawn. It is kind of committal. You are moving the roof of your king's house, but for a good purpose. Then we have rook takes, pawn takes, rook f1, queen maybe here. And black seems to be holding on to everything by a thread. So rook e8 played to defend the knight. We do see this trade here. What happens if queen takes f5? That rook f1 idea, and then probably, I don't know, queen to one of these light squares. Probably you don't want to go back to d5 because the pin is annoying. But maybe you don't want to allow this rook to come with the activity. But then again, you also don't want to allow the rook to come and defend the pawn. So instead we have knight to b4, attacking the queen. So where to go with the queen? Attacking the knight here. Is that a fork? That kind of looks like a fork. What's the point here? What am I missing? What am I missing? Going for the fork. You can attack this rook. Oh, that's a fork too. Did Tang just bait Grigori into the fork for the counter fork? You can fight the fork with the fork. So we got Grigori and Penguin in a fork fight, and it looks like Andrew's fork is a little bit more forcing. Because, okay, knight takes rook, queen takes rook with check, king forced to the corner, queen check, king forced backwards, and then you have f6 threatening checkmate on g7, but also opening the queen's view on e4. So, yeah, knight c2 played a little quick from Oprah and Grigori, and Andrew has over double his time on the clock. I think you just got to save this somehow. I think you got to, I don't know. I don't think you can allow this. That's pretty plain and simple right there. So queen c6 is played. Not going for the queen trade. Giving a check here. Rook c1. Yep, so there's a check from the queen, and now the knight is pinned. That knight that was once attacking both queen and rook finds itself attacked by both the rook and the queen. So my oh my, have the tables have turned. So knight coming here. Rook takes, rook takes, rook here. So black actually finding a way out of this. I mean, knight takes a pawn. Trade of queens, but now rook here, and yeah, Operin resigns. So what is this, a fork? If rook takes, pawn takes, and the bishop and the knight, well, both knights are hanging, so you can't save them. But wait, no, if you go here, hold on. This is still taking me some time to process this. Andrew Tang thanking one of the viewers for correctly guessing 12 of the 37 moves. So, okay, Andrew now up to 2.5. But what's happened on the other boards? It looks like, so Raja and Aaron Master actually drew. So this game was drawn by agreement. 2 rooks and some pawns. They did not play this through, apparently. Aaron Master up a lot on the clock, but didn't want to play on. Actually, Raja is up a pawn. So interesting decision for a draw here, but I'm not going to question it. We'll give them their points. Aaron Master with the half point, and Raja with 2.5. So pretty good score for the board 4 from Mizzou. I don't know the results of the other games. It looks like Incredible Bubachik won. But yeah, spectating the games is weird because they disappear from me. Like I don't see all of them. So anyways, I assume. I mean, I don't want to assume, but I'm assuming that Antipov won and probably Incredible Bubachik also won. It also doesn't help that I don't know the order of the boards because I don't know. They played the games kind of in a funny order. But needless to say, Mizzou won convincingly. Princeton a bit mismatched on this one, but Andrew Tang still doing fairly well. So yeah, that was a fun match.